this evening again, after the second day, Fitz, Spence, and myself. I know that I'm on my first glass of wine, doing a shameless plug. This is Book Club Riesling from Bingen, from a local wine cellar here. Very good wine. Spence, did you get your whiskey already?
Yes, I have already started. Not that long ago. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Fitz.
Yes. Greetings.
Good
Live
morning,
long
Mike.
and prosper. And it's a little early here for whiskey or wine. So again, I'm with coffee.
So Fitz, a question for you. We were, Spence and me and Margit and Elena were jongling the whole day between 5 different ships, 5 different live feeds.
Yes.
Had 2 smaller hiccups, nothing big, but in all together, Microsoft Team Gods have served us well today. So it was all nice. You have been following this from a side and basically kind from outside. Can you give us your guts feeling after the second day and the final day of the Galactic Collaboration Summit?
I'm just going to put it into 3 words, my friend. I'm sorry. Wait. I'm in North America. 3 words. Here. 3 words. It just worked.
Spence, your opinion.
The glitch factor was minimal, if at all existent. I'm not saying we didn't have to work to make this happen. Everything requires work, but I am completely impressed. I think the decision to record the sessions and make them 30 minutes was a stroke of brilliance. Because if you've got the luxury of preparing the presentation in advance, you can get rid of any technical issues that sometimes cost you 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning or at the end. You can tighten everything up more nicely. And 30 minutes is a perfect amount of time for an online attention span and just enough time to get one good point across. For people that were trying to do presentations that, were omnibus, here's everything under the sun type things, 30 minutes doesn't work. But in case you didn't notice, we didn't do those kinds of presentations during the Galactic Collaboration Summit. There are better venues for that kind of subject matter when and elsewhere. By the way, since we're talking about when and elsewhere, if you weren't paying attention to the guy who sounds a lot like a starship captain in the pre-recorded vignettes in between sessions, there is an absolutely excellent real-time double duty event happening at the end of October. And by all means, get yourselves to Wiesbaden, because assuming the travel bans and the quarantine requirements get lifted, I'm going to be there too. It's October 26th through 28th. And the last day of the event, it's my birthday. So, let's make this a multi-thousand person birthday party for me. Just say.
That would be perfect.
Honestly, you guys okay with that?
Yeah, overall, again, very happy. As you said, a couple of minor glitches, but the technology platform itself was really very helpful, made it very smooth. From all the feedback we've received so far, the attendees had an easy experience. And, obviously, as Mike mentioned, the format worked quite well in conjunction with sort of deliberately picking the type of content that fitted together with the sort of not just the session length, but how many sessions a day and how long the breaks are and all of those kind of things seem to work very well. And just like last week, whilst for us, you're sort of a bit worn out after the full day, as it were. It's a fairly well-oiled machine for something that was you know, it's not that we didn't prepare it, but both the content and the mechanism was done pretty quickly, you know, a lot quicker than it would have been done if we were doing this anyway. You know, as a sort of regular occurrence, we would have had a lot more time, and the speakers would have had a lot more time to prepare their stuff as well. So from both kind of points of view, very happy. So obviously, like everything, you know, you're jotting down ideas of things that could be slightly improved and so on, but overall very happy and pleased with the response that we've had from attendees as well regarding the material and just, you know, the way everything worked and how easy it was for people to get stuff in their calendar and things like that, you know, which all contribute to it being smooth.
I wonder if Otis's mic is muted.
It is for a reason, because right now as we are speaking, we have a small glitch in the last room going on. It's Voyager. Talk something. I need 1 more minute just to repair the glitch.
Oh, sure, we can do that. Spence and I can find a way to turn a phrase when necessary. Spence, you know what I was thinking? Why don't we do this every month?
We could do that if you want to swap roles. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
How about this, Mike? You created a presentation for us,
Sure.
As well as obviously helping us behind the scenes with, you know, moral support and guidance and so on. How, you know, think about it purely from sort of your point of view as a speaker, in terms of what we asked you to do and how that, you know, maybe dovetailed or perhaps interrupted your regular work, etc. You know, how did you feel about it from the point of view of just
It didn't interrupt my regular work at all. It was exactly the same sort of thing I would do if I were preparing a presentation for an in-person conference or a live conference. Use whatever term you prefer. Sure. But I will say this. It did give me the opportunity to do some things that I don't normally get to do. So the visuals, I did a little bit more with visuals than I would normally attempt to do in a live presentation. I also was able to go back through the recording I made and cut out a lot of stuff. So if there was any kind of technical glitch, bye-bye. Good. I didn't have any, but the option was there. What I did find myself doing is there are a few things that one might do. How about this? In a room, in a live setting, one speaks in a different kind of way. It's more like oratory. It's more like a public performance. Yeah. When you are talking for an online delivery, it's more punchy. It's more, you have to fit the format. So I found myself changing the way I spoke and editing what I said in order to fit the YouTube generation. I know we're on Teams. I'm using YouTube as the same way one uses Kleenex or something like that.
Yeah. And in terms of the sort of creating the recording and doing the sound and all the rest of it, did you know, was that something that I mean, I presume you've done quite a bit of that anyway, but you know,
I do webinars on a regular basis and record them and edit them and so on. So it certainly wasn't an alien experience by any stretch of the imagination. I actually find that kind of stuff fun. So to me,
you're a little bit weird, but that's okay. That's why we like you. Yeah.
But no, as a speaker, look, I suspect it is difficult sometimes to say something in 30 minutes, to figure out exactly what to say and how to say it in 30 minutes time. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do to fit the format. But that more than anything was probably the hardest thing to do for some of the speakers, is to figure out what not to say so that you can get something across in 30 minutes. Yeah, but it was absolutely necessary given the format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely the case. Whatever the format is, you know, there's certain constraints that will dictate, you know, how you approach it and, you know, determine what stays and what goes and all the rest of it. I think it's certainly for the type of content that we've seen this trend with the in-person events as well, of course, but as the trend is much more now heavily geared towards, you know, end user customization as opposed to kind of, you know, deep dive technical topics as well. It's another reason why the format works so well for content that is very, you know, predominantly focused in that area or in that kind of style. I think it also helps with, you know, demo heavy is also something that we traditionally have a challenge with, because, you know, the in-person events historically, you know, there's always been a sort of almost like extra street cred if you do lots of demo, but the audience doesn't necessarily see it that way, you know, and a long-winded demo heavy session can actually be quite a challenge in a large room with, you know, big screens that are very, as well, whilst they're big, they're very difficult to see across the entire room. So, you know, end user focused demos actually work really well in this type of format, and of course, on, you know, similarly on a YouTube video or similar as well, you know, especially if you can obviously get the recording and then, you know, go back and replay those things as well, of course, is very helpful.
Indeed. Absolutely right. Yeah. I think in many cases, yeah, I enjoy doing these online things. I think, but it is a completely different kind of experience. A speaker needs to think of it that way. The audience is practiced at thinking this way. It's without even realizing it, I believe their expectations are different. So yeah, if you are thinking about speaking at the next Galactic Collaboration Summit or any online event coming up, there are several. There have been several. There are several more in the pipeline. KonMari this stuff. You know, do the Maria Kondo technique on this. Take away everything that doesn't give the presentation joy and then leave the rest. What you don't do is just as important. What you do. Get one good idea across. And, you know, like one of my favorite YouTube channels for editing video or tips on editing video. They do 2 to 5 minute demos on a single topic. They get right in there, they show you what it is, and then they get out. There's no, what's up, guys, kind of stuff or anything like that.
Yeah, it's actually I think the same for me with the photo editing. You know, there's an awful lot of people that do, you know, 20 minutes and 10 minutes is how wonderful they are, you know, and then there's 5 minutes of them actually showing the piece of information that you're going to glean from the video. And I much prefer the 5. I mean, some of that stuff is amusing, but of course it's a waste of time as well. So, you know, if you want that, you know, bite-sized chunk of information, it's you know, obviously much more preferable for the shorter videos. I think the other thing that I find not really a surprise, but at the same time, you know, a curious, massive advantage to the format is being able to offer the opportunity to speakers who otherwise just wouldn't be able to come to the event. I think that, you know, we did a little bit of that, as much as of it we could, and I think that's really a huge, you know, upside to it, whether it be, you know, time zone or travel restrictions or just the cost of travel, any number of reasons why it might not work, right? But,
another great thing about this, technical issues, like my internet connection is choppy.
Yeah, which never happens at an event, right?
No, never, ever, never.
Yeah, and yeah, all that kind of stuff, you know, with the sound issues, you know, if the room's too cold, it's only you know, it's only the fault of the central heating in the attendees' house or similar, you know, all those kind of things.
Precisely.
They don't go away, but you know, bad food, I mean, the list is endless for those of us experienced over the years with the in-person events. And yeah, I think it overall is it fits the technology that we're talking about at this event, and also, you know, makes helps build a connection in some ways as well for people who might want to go to the in-person event and perhaps do go to the in-person event, but are not the sort of individual that's going to, you know, the more introverted sort of person who's maybe doesn't feel comfortable at a large event. There's a big crowd of people being noisy and all the rest of it, right? So I think that's the one area that I would like to, that I would look to improve, would be around the interactivity side of things. But you know, even with what we delivered, you know, that was quite active and quite pleasing to see.
I am glad the show continues to go on, and I am absolutely glad that the show will be going on in October to celebrate both the community and, of course, my birthday. And I am extra glad.
This is
glad.
your 41st birthday, right, Mike?
My 41st birthday for the umpteenth time. Yes.
Hexadecimally.
Yes, but I am extra happy that Otis is back.
Oh, I managed to. Teams have right. We are saying a lot of nice things about Teams today, and Teams is good. And Mike, you're saying something, showing me something, but I don't see anything.
You are on my screen at the moment.
Whatever. Yeah, we were praising Teams, and it served us well. Just on the very last session, the Voyager truck Teams has just killed the event. I needed to recreate the event, so I hope that that's going to go well. It happens. Technical glitches, you see, regardless how technology is good, technical glitches do happen.
Of course.
Yeah, again, that's sort of part of everything, right? Is being able to deal with them relatively quickly and carry on, basically. You know, that's something that is hugely important across all of the content that we had, that was focused on how we're responding to the current situation. So,
correct.
If everything worked perfectly all the time, why would we even be having a conference?
That's true.
Because everybody, you know,
I have maintained for a very long time that the reason this community is as successful as it is because the product that we've all rallied around is quite imperfect. I'm not saying it's not a good product. I'm not saying it's not an incredibly useful product. I'm just saying it's not perfect. And therefore we have a reason to get together to share information and ways to carry it forward and do things with it that weren't expected. If it were a turnkey thing where everything just worked all the time, we'd have no reason to get together and share ideas.
Okay, I'm opening the Pandora's box. Pardon me, you are going to hate me, both of you, but I'm opening the Pandora's box.
All right. Otis, I could never hate you, but what do you got?
Turnkey versus something that has a bit more feature. We have seen the discussion, which I was trying to stay away of those because I don't really find them purposeful at all. Zoom versus Team. Well, Zoom has one function only: call and answer the call and talk.
Yes.
And even that, they managed to have really a lot of privacy concerns, issues, compliance issues, or whatever. They were forbidden in town of New York or state of New York or whatever.
Yes.
In half of the German states, in the school system.
And they're adding end-to-end encryption, but only if you pay for it.
Right. But now, imagine the situation where you don't only have calls, you also have got chat, you also have got files, you also have got the whole other things going with there with the planner and everything. All those things being stored in different silos, all those things need to be kept in sync, all those things need to have a proper permissions configuration, all those things need to have a proper security configuration. We are not speaking about, I don't know, taking a bicycle and having a ride between places A and B. We are talking about, let's say, a pretty complex car from today, where not even the producer sometimes, the manufacturer sometimes knows what exactly did he build inside. but there are reasons for that. Yes, there is a complexity behind Teams, the same way we had complexity behind SharePoint server, the same way we had complexity behind the Exchange server, same way we had complexity behind I don't know, links.
Perhaps the best word is not complexity. How about options, richness,
Right.
flexibility,
but
extensibility?
they do necessarily lead to complexity.
Yes, you're right. The complexity is a byproduct of being an open-ended product as opposed to it just being inherently complex.
So none of us is really paid by Microsoft, and we can speak what you mean. I mean, the fact that we have 3 protection and compliance centers for Office 365 or Microsoft 365 now tells you enough.
Yeah,
and there are three different URLs where you configure security and compliance options.
One of the problems with this conversation is what I consider to be a sort of fake comparison or an invalid comparison. It's really not really appropriate to compare or contrast, I should say, something like Zoom with Teams. In other words, Zoom being a turnkey for calling and video calls, and Teams doing that plus a whole bunch of other things. It would be probably better to compare and contrast Cisco with Teams. And
sure, and the old Skype for Business.
Yeah, for sure.
We probably could have done that. Teams has absorbed that functionality, but it's many other things. Basically, we have a collaboration environment or a community as a service with chat features and real-time communication features as part of what it does. But yeah, it's
and the point to that really is that even though you look at something like Cisco as a potential enterprise turnkey, there's plenty of complexity with that as well, even though it doesn't have a lot of the things that we're talking about. So when as soon as you add the trust element into the discussion and you move away from what's effectively a consumer solution, i.e. Zoom or consumer Skype, into really
and by the way, to be fair, Zoom does what it's supposed to do pretty darn well. I think it gets more flack than it actually deserves. I mean, yes, it has committed some sins and it needs to atone for them, but by and large, what Zoom sets out to do, it does pretty well.
Yeah, and it also, one of its biggest downsides is also one of its biggest advantages, right? It can be used effectively without any involvement from IT whatsoever. It can be shadow IT, and that's one of the reasons why it's so popular. Not everybody was ready for this pandemic, and therefore it's well, nobody was, but in terms of all of the businesses that we're familiar with, have been doing this for years already. But the UK government, were doing things on Zoom because they didn't have something else in place that could do it, and that the pandemic was the reason for pushing it. But it could have been
the infrastructure requirements necessary to prepare to do it with other platforms. Would have taken time. There would have been a payoff to taking that time, but the time wasn't there.
Exactly.
We are back to this very old discussion which we have for 15 years now, God, or even more, when we say, what's the best iPhone app? The one that has 2 buttons. Now, if those 2 buttons are all what you need to perform your task, you're grand. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
If not, then we are coming to these complexity issues.
Yeah, or you love it until you need it to do something.
Until you need it to be something more than it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and complexity is a bad thing, particularly from the end user perspective, which often, from the technical side, often gets overlooked. Obviously, the more complex something is, the more training is needed, etc. But nonetheless, at the same time, having the opportunity to show, have those options there in order to say, okay, maybe we try doing something differently is the counterpoint to that. So I don't think, software as a service has shown us that to be to have longevity and to be successful, that sort of flexibility / customizability is paramount to success, whether it be Salesforce or whether it be video calling or whether it be some educational app, right, that is teaching you to play the guitar, right? The ones that survive are the ones that continually add complexity, more features, more approaches. The ones that are basically doing the same old or play this chord, they will fade out, after a couple of years, because the marketplace just moves quicker than the stagnant vendor, as it were, or stagnant product.
No, you're perfectly right. I just want to wrap up this kind of discussion, which we opened this Pandora's box basically with. Yeah, people are telling me, why does Microsoft have 3 different URLs for the security and compliance and trust center on Office 365? Well, even if it's not optimal, I do agree with that. It's better than don't having any single one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the
3 is better than 0.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the answer to the question is the reason that they have them is because there's different trajectories of investment across all of this. It's not a small undertaking it's not like they started from scratch and said, right, okay, in the year 2007, we're going to start from nothing and design the perfect cloud, right? I mean, that's not what happened. And if you remember, it wasn't that long ago that the samples for SQL Server had usernames and passwords in them, and so that's the answer to the why. And really, it's okay, obviously everybody would prefer everything in one place, but then think about the challenge of actually building that user interface. There's going to be security things that come down the road in the next 4 or 5 years that nobody's yet thought about. Again, compare and contrast it to the admin user interface for a Cisco firewall, or any third-party, edge device. Any organization that's got proxy servers, firewalls, threat gateways, etc. They're all managing things in multiple different places anyway. I would actually suggest that Microsoft is the market leader in centralizing administration interfaces, even though for me it's as frustrating as it is for everybody else, trying to remember where stuff is. Is it in that one? Is it in this one? Have they changed the name of the link? That kind of stuff. But
should I be managing my users inside of the Microsoft 365 portal or inside of Azure's portal?
Yeah. But at the same time, you have to also be kind of a little bit, you need to be kind of fair on it and compare it to what life is like in somebody else's cloud.
I mean, just as an example, I'll pick Salesforce just because I've got some familiarity with it. The platform is absolutely nice in its own right, but it has less to do than Microsoft has. There's a lot there, but take all of that and now add in everything else that's in Microsoft 365 and try to provide a nice unified administration experience. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to achieve. I mean, again, kind of a counter or comparison to the world that we used to live in on premises with, management consoles. Some things were web interfaces. It's an extremely difficult challenge. And then
instead of 3 URLs, I had 10 different applications.
Yeah, different languages and all these kind of things. I mean, it's very easy to sort of sit and laugh and say, well, that should be better. And of course, everybody wants it to be better, including the vendors. But the scale of the challenges, here's a sort of a question in response to the question is, would you rather have one central user interface which wasn't secure versus 3 interfaces that are bulletproof? And I think everybody would pick now
the second option. Yes.
Well, yeah, because they're sissies. I'll take the 3. I'll take the 3.
Spence, I know you're a fan of the airplanes and you know a lot about aviation and from your background of airplanes. You know how an airplane cockpit looks like. It does not look like child's toy.
Yeah, that was actually one of the, for me, one of the most sort of interesting aspects of the recent NASA SpaceX launch was watching those dudes control the thing with touchscreens, having been trained in, using slightly less technical solutions. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why particular dials and knobs still work the same way, even on the SpaceX, or even in your car. If you look at the cars these days, the degree to which you can't service it, etc., and everything's displays and all the rest of it, but the mechanism that turns on the indicator light, and I know there's certain car manufacturers that kind of treat those as optional, but the rest of us who use our indicators, that mechanism still works the same way. There's a reason for that.
You are not driving BMW.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say it, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. There's a good reason for that, and that's true in software as well. There's a reason why certain interfaces have to be, administration interfaces particularly, have to be a particular way, and unfortunately, that doesn't always scale particularly well. From the person performing the administration task point of view. Years ago, I was involved in a company that built a security operations center, and it was relatively small compared to some of the things that we see today, but still very complex, managing an awful lot of different devices for different customers. There isn't a good way to have a single management user interface for that number of devices and number of scenarios. So, sometimes there's more logic behind it than perhaps comes across. Particularly from a frustration point of view as, say, an admin like us who's managing multiple tenants, that's one of the major frustration points. But we do have to understand that, yes, that's annoying, but it's also actually relatively rare in the grand scheme of things. If you think about everything all up, the majority of people are only dealing with one instance as well. So some of those things are a little bit overplayed, I think, given the capability that we get and the fact that we're getting new capability every month as well. That stuff's always going to lag behind, I think, and that's one of the downsides to the incredible capability that we have and the opportunity that there is, particularly with security. And a lot of people are sort of saying, oh, well, we can't meet these regulations and all the rest of it. But the answer is today, you can. It's a question of applying technology to do so.
Okay, boys. This hour's final words meant to be like 10 minutes. We are now a bit more than that.
Yep. Honest, all I want to say is, Spence toughed it out, but you and I went ahead and gave ourselves Corona cuts a couple of months ago. And I'm glad to see your hair is growing out nice.
Did it for me, but yeah.
I took my beard trimmer and just buzzed my own head.
It's
kind of like a skydiver packing their own parachute. I did not want anyone else to blame if I didn't like it. So.
I must admit, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was kind of hoping you would do the John White thing, Mike. But maybe
become a mountain man. No,
the Kenny Loggins look. But
Kenny Rogers, you mean?
Well,
should I be doing the John White thing?
No.
Because we actually, we do have to, come and see you and your wife in the future. So I don't think we'd be, if we persuaded you, would be
honest. That sort of works for him. You went a different way, and I think it works for you nicely.
That's perfect. Fine. I don't.
You got to be you, buddy.
I mean, you never go full John White, and I'm not planning to do so.
So we do have one more thing before we leave everybody. Just for those who can't get enough of the online events.
Yes. Very, very important thing.
Another community online event takes place next week.
Elena, put me on the camera, please.
Oh, yes, if you can switch to Addis. If you go to collab365.community, you'll land on the Global Con website, and they're doing another large online Microsoft 365 focused community event. So I'd encourage you to go check that out, sign up. I believe it's free as well, and it's run by a top quality bloke called Mark Jones and his crew.
We like Mark.
Everybody likes Mark.
They've been a lot of help to us, and we likewise would like to support them. So we'd encourage you, if, as I say, you couldn't get enough of the material that we've presented over the last 2 days, then go check out GlobalCon.
Right. Now, that said, yes, check out GlobalCon. Check out whatever else is going to be handy, because there are also some smaller local events that will remain virtual. But all of that said, no one is off the hook. No one is. Everyone, let me rephrase this. Everyone needs to get to Wiesbaden at the end of October. Everyone needs to get to Wiesbaden at the end of October. The conference is going to be great. And again, it's going to be my birthday.
It's crazy. It's crazy. We have 2,000 people already registered. We have all the sponsors on aboard. Everything is there. We just wait for the possibility to actually deliver.
And now you get to be in 2 conferences for the price of 1. How cool is that?
Yeah. That's going to be a real European Microsoft Tech show with Azure, with Microsoft 365, with a lot of people coming from Redmond. Hopefully, as always, we have as I said, we just need to all feel safe and live in a safe world to actually organize it, and we hope that the end of October is going to be time and we all are going to be safe.
Yeah. And hopefully, as well as Mike's 41st birthday, we can celebrate being safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may be delivering presentations in masks, but by God, we're going to deliver those presentations. I will. There's a kit you can get now where you take a photograph of your face and you print it on a cloth paper, and then you put that over your mask so it still looks like you.
Wow.
I have not tried it yet, but I did order the special cloth paper, so I'll let you guys know.
Okay. I did see some manufacturers started to promote a lavalier mic inside a mask, and then they realized that this wasn't going to work, right? Because you'd have to throw it away for every session.
Correct.
So they decided to stop selling it, which was quite amusing.
Yeah. Well, points for caring.
Yeah.
No points for poor execution or not connecting the dots.
That's true. Dear people, thank you very much. I think we did mostly a decent job.
Mostly? Are you crazy? You guys have done a wonderful job.
I'm still learned by the glitch in the tech which we had in the very last session.
Oh, look, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
That's
this
true.
Conference, like always, like every conference that this august body is responsible for, has rocked. I could come up with a more colorful way of saying rocked, but there could be children in the audience. So since we're getting ready to sign off, I'm just going to say, well, I'm still on camera. Live long and prosper, everyone.
Live long and prosper, everyone. Take care, people. Bye.
Cheers. Take care.
Thank you for being a part of the Galactic Collaboration Summit. Join the community and meet in-person world-class Microsoft and MVP speakers this autumn in Wiesbaden, Frankfurt, Germany, with 15 full-day tutorials and over 150 Microsoft 365 and Azure sessions at the combined European Collaboration Summit and European Cloud Summit from 26 to 28 October 2020. Community rocks.